One man, one bear, two fatal attacks. Will the humans survive? I mean, I hope so. Hey, welcome to Laughback, or welcome back to Laughback. My name is Jeff. You can call me Jeff. Annie, you better not put the Jeff meme in there.
My name is Jeff.
They put the Jeff meme in there, didn't they? Well, today, my friend, we are covering bear attacks, or more specifically, one more recent one. And I've got to be honest with you, I thought these kind of happened a little more often, but apparently that is just a misconception. See, in the past decade, there have been over 60 reported bear attacks in the US, and while most of these attacks are not fatal, they do often cause major boo-boos. Whoa, no, not that boo-boo, no, these boo-boos. Owie! Now, most of these attacks happen when a human surprises a bear, dinks around with their food, or messes with their cubs. And spoiler alert, bears do not like it when you mess with their cubs. You will soon find this out.
Dude.
Now, full disclosure, I am going to be reading this story that was rewritten by my main man, Manny, who has ensured me that there's going to be no copyright issues. Yes? Fingers crossed, paws crossed. Now gather round, people, gather round, and try putting yourself into this true story. What would you do if you did everything right and still found yourself face to face with being unalive? Yeah, sorry, YouTube doesn't like the whole D word. You get it. And now, story time with Jeff. It was a crisp October morning in 2016, the kind of morning that made you feel alive. Todd Orr, a Montana native and a seasoned outdoorsman, set out for what he thought would be a simple scouting trip. The plan was straightforward: hike a few miles into the wilderness near Enos, Montana, look for signs of elk, and be back home before lunch. He had started an hour before sunrise and was planning on a 15 to 20 mile loop around Sphinx Mountain. Up before sunrise, kinda ridiculous. You know what else is ridiculous? Hiking 15 to 20 miles casually. No thank you. Boy's got endurance. But you know what? My boy Todd is used to this, because he grew up around these parts and worked the mountains for the last 25 years as a trail engineer for the Custer-Gallatin National Forest. He knew the terrain, the wildlife, and to always be prepared, especially for bears. He had his trusty pistol in a shoulder holster and his bear spray on the sternum strap of his backpack. And on top of everything else, he was yelling, "Hey bear! Hey bear!" every 30 seconds into the pre-dawn darkness. And Todd was loving all of it. But the wilderness has a way of turning peaceful moments into chaos. And that day, chaos had claws. I know, it was cheesy, but it felt right coming out of my mouth. Now, as the sun brightened the sky and touched the top of the pines, he switched his flashlight off and continued up the well-worn path, no longer feeling the need to call out. Pushing forward up and into a clearing, he halted. Some 80 yards away, a full-grown grizzly was playing with her cubs in the meadow he had just entered. Their eyes met, and within a second, her dark gray-brown body disappeared up the ridge and into the trees, and her cubs followed. Todd had to calm himself down. He'd seen dozens of bears react like this in his life, and assumed she and her cubs were just fleeing the scene. A mother grizzly wasn't likely to abandon her cubs to pursue Todd. Or so he thought. Or so he hoped. So he got his breath, settled his nerves, and waited a minute before continuing, hiking away from the bears on another trail. But just a few strides later, he heard brush crashing down behind him. He turned and he saw 300 pounds of grizzly rage running down the ridge straight towards him. Now see, here's the thing. Grizzlies can hit speeds of 30 miles per hour in seconds. That is faster than most cars on a neighborhood street. Todd had only moments to react. His hands pulled the safety pin of his bear spray and he fired. Now, it was at this point that most bears would turn tail and run away. But in 2 seconds, this mama bear burst through the orange cloud and was now 10 feet away from Todd. The sow slammed into him like a freight train. Todd was thrown to the ground with the wind knocked out of him, and that's when the real terror truly began. Todd dropped onto his stomach and protected the back of his head and neck with his arms. The bear jumped on top of Todd and began raking its claws down his back. Each swipe was cutting through his clothes and skin like paper. The grizzly continued her attack, biting into his scalp, tearing it open. But Todd didn't move, he didn't fight, he didn't scream like a little baby Jeff. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was probably more like 15 seconds, the bear stopped. She stood over him, gave him a couple sniffs, and then mercifully, she just walked away. Ah, thank God. Todd laid there in shock and disbelief. Had I just survived a grizzly attack, he was asking himself? He could feel the sting of open wounds all over his back. Cautiously, he stood up. He didn't want to linger, which I totally get. See, bears hardly attack more than once, but he doesn't want to take his chances. Adrenaline pumped through his blood and propelled him down the trail. 8 or so minutes later, he was moving down the trail by a stream. The rushing water was loud, but not loud enough to block out the ominous sound of a large creature crashing through the brush. He turned again to see the same grizzly charging towards him. She was already just 20 feet away, leaving Todd no time to grab his bear spray or his pistol. She threw him to the ground and attacked again. Her bites were harder and deeper this time. Laying in the same position as before, he felt the first bite on his left arm and heard the bone crunch between the bear's teeth. As she ripped the tendons out of Todd's arm, he gasped in pain, and this made the bear attack even harder. Overall, she bit him 20 or 30 times, lifting him up a few inches from the ground and then slamming him back down, treating him as a deflated basketball and pushing him around with her paws. Her claws dug into his back as he fought with all of his might to stay still and silent. He knew that his only chance was to play dead and wait for her to leave. While the bear ripped his pistol and binoculars off and trashed his day pack, Todd remained a complete statue, trying not to even breathe. He focused on staying on his stomach. If the bear flipped him over, she'd kill him. This mama bear decided to bite into his shoulder one more time, with her teeth sinking deeper than ever before. But finally, she lost interest and ended up leaving for good. Yeah, good, fine. Go get your cubs, go steal some picnic baskets somewhere else, and leave the man alone. Leave the man alone. One mauling is good enough. You know, I feel like you've met your quota. Now, Todd laid there with gashes all over his body, including one specifically in his head that was way worse than he realized. Wiping the blood out of his eye, he lifted his gaze from the ground to look around. He spotted his sidearm 10 feet away. He jumped up to grab it and his backpack and set off immediately down the trail to get as much distance between himself and the bear as possible. He didn't even try second guessing what he could and couldn't do. He just ran that sucker, baby. Jacked up on adrenaline, he ended up covering the remaining 3 miles in about 45 minutes and arrived at his truck, where he found another car parked right beside him. So in heroic Todd fashion, he pulled a phone out and shot a video telling people to be safe in the area, and then posted that to Facebook. Now, I did go watch this video, and he does look pretty beat up. He even says in the video, he's like, I have no idea what's going on under my hat, because he put his hat back on. Can you imagine putting your hat back on after a bear had gnawed on your skull? No thank you. But anyway, due to not wanting to be canceled, I'm not going to show that video here. You can go look it up if you want. I would basically just be showing you blurred footage with just the audio. But he does seem like an alright dude, and he only took that time, being as injured as he was, to make the video so he could tell other people about the danger. So I mean, that's something. Now, after he made that video for Facebook, he got into his car and drove the 17 miles to the hospital all by himself. Todd's wound tally included 20 puncture wounds on his right arm and shoulders, 2 severed tendons, nerve damage, and shredded muscles in his left arm. There was a 5-inch gash above his right ear that was showing his actual skull. And lastly but not leastly, he had puncture wound marks from the bear's teeth and claws that were all over his back and his waist. You know, I guess that's one way to get thinner. When Todd was talking about the fact that the bear was up on top of him, pushing him into the ground, it just reminded me that I know what it feels like when kids jump on my back while I'm lying on the ground, and that pain is enough for me to be like, God, you can take me now. So, Todd, if you're out there, if you're listening, I tip my hat to you, my man. Good job. Todd was able to stay calm in unimaginable terror. And here's the most mind-blowing part about this. Todd didn't let this experience scare him away from the wilderness. He still hikes, he still hunts, and he still respects the very creatures that nearly deleted him from the world. Now, I am not going to be covering all the different things you guys can do to defend yourselves against a bear. That's going to be for a different episode. Which reminds me, if you want to see said episode, or you like the story format that we did here today and you want more of that action, let us know in the comments below. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go over all the dirty little details, but I will give you a piece of advice, okay? So listen up. Here we go. Ready? If the bear's black, you can fight back. If they're brown, get on the ground. You gotta play dead like Todd did. And if it's white, well, you might as well go towards the light because polar bears, they be nasty. There you go. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. And remember, it's pack or nothing. Now, if you're looking for some more bear action, you're gonna want to click on this episode right here. Yeah, it's good.